Greetings, dear listeners. It's been a while. In tonight's edition of Midnight Philosophy, we're going to mix things up. We have a submission from one of the members of the Uncharted Catholic Man community. The featured essay is written by Just a Girl. Oh, I've had it up to here. And she writes, I would like to begin by pointing out the fact that I am a practicing Catholic. I attend Mass weekly and confession semi-regularly. I pray at least a little daily. I observe Friday meat abstention year-round. I observe all the holy days of obligation. I was a virgin bride by choice, for both moral and practical reasons. And I am still happily and faithfully married to my husband, and I cultivate and generally strive to improve on my relationship with God, and otherwise try to live a righteous life He will approve of. I'm sharing this info not in an attempt to give off any impression that I'm holy. This is just baseline Catholic stuff I'm doing, after all. It isn't heroic virtue. Not to mention, I don't even always succeed in doing right, since I'm a mere imperfect sinner like everyone else. But to simply show that I'm not the wicked, anti-Catholic caricature folks like myself get demonized as either, by our fellow Catholics who adhere to a more rigid stance on contraception. I'd had instinctive misgivings about the anti-contraception propaganda for a long time prior to meeting my husband, but it was during engagement that I was finally spurred to confront them head-on instead of continuing to shove them down and trying to ignore them. I hadn't directly addressed them before engagement because I didn't want to get ahead of myself. I'd presumed it would all make sense by the time I got to engagement. Alas, I had no idea what I was in for, and I found it to be so much worse than I'd suspected. I had been aware of the off-putting stereotype about us Catholics, the whole, quote, sex is a necessary evil that is chiefly for procreation, and even sacramentally married couples shouldn't enjoy it beyond a certain begrudgingly accepted level, unquote, prudishness. But I'd thought it was just that, a mere inaccurate stereotype applied across the board based on a teeny tiny but loud minority of fringe extremists. I'd likewise been aware that for some reason the secular world doesn't accept NFP, that is, natural family planning, and medical professionals don't encourage it, well, unless you include FAM, or fertility awareness method, which is the same thing except sans the abstinence rule. While I could tell that was an indicator NFP might not work as well as the other methods, I'd figured the difference was rather marginal, and maybe the tracking required a bit more effort than most people are willing to put forth. But surely it would still be reasonably manageable. Ha! Even if there was an expectation of a select few days, of moderate, frustration each month in terms of abstinence. So imagine my sheer shock when I informed my now husband we'd need to practice NFP once married, and he looked into the matter and rejected it outright. Whereas prior to that, he had accepted my religion, including even the premarital abstinence requirement. I thought surely he had misunderstood something, even though he had purposely sought out devout Catholic sources. So it's not as if he was getting his NFP info from anti-Catholic bigots or anything else disingenuous. But when I delved into the issue myself, I only found more of the same, proving him right. Instead of uplifting results indicating the ripe fruits of a healthy, holy lifestyle, I found damning results indicating rotten fruits of sickness and profound dysfunction. Mothers' health destroyed, in many cases irreparably so, by ill-advised pregnancy, which usually stemmed from NFP failure. Conflict in their marriages, parental burnout, and so much more up to and including abuse enablement, dehumanization of spouses and especially wives, trivialization of human life, and even spiritual despair and apostasy. And in spite of what gets parroted around in Catholic circles, NFP is not a real solution to any of these problems. In fact, it exacerbates them. Josephite marriage isn't a proper solution for the vast majority of couples either. Long story short, because I could otherwise embark on a never-ending tangent in breaking down how pharisaical this apparently man-made rule is and making apt comparisons of it to cult ideologies, I highly recommend Sick Pilgrim's blog series, You Are Not Alone, Catholic Women's Real-Life Experience of NFP, and the Uncharted Catholic Man podcast for the male perspective on practicing NFP, as well as urging you to check out the full historical context of the Second Vatican Council's Birth Control Commission, which does not get acknowledged enough. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if you read between the lines of the sugar-coated NFP propaganda, you can even pick out the hidden reality from there too. Now here's where I predict some viewers will start to judge my soul and claim that I'm a lapsed Catholic and or a heretic, that I'm a selfish feminazi, that my husband has turned me against the church. Never mind that he converted to Catholicism after marriage, though, and is likewise practicing, that our marriage is invalid, or whatever else they're thinking. To them I say, I actually took this problem straight to God in prayer, because I was desperate for answers I wasn't getting from anywhere and anyone else. Even some priests seemed to be as confused about this issue as I was. It just didn't and doesn't make any sense that God would allegedly put happy, healthy, devout Catholic married couples in a catch-22. Something has surely gotten lost in translation, or worse, tampered with along the way.
I know some will dismiss me by claiming I'm too lazy to handle a hard teaching, and to that I remind them I got married as a virgin, by active decision, and not straight out of high school either, so I had to wait a while, probably longer than many of my critics.
It's not only that the anti-contraception stance is a hard teaching, it's that it's an impossible teaching to properly follow without destruction occurring, whether that be physical destruction, mental destruction, spiritual destruction, or any combination of these. It's objectively dangerous to body, soul, and relationships. I see that in its fruits, and in the bitter vitriol through which quite a few of its proponents debate the issue. I honestly cannot believe in good conscience that this is what our merciful God wants for us. Thanks for joining us in this episode of the podcast. And much gratitude to Just a Girl for her essay, sharing her personal struggle with and incisive critique of NFP. I hope all of you will join us again in the next installment of Midnight Philosophy, a podcast that aims to make space for conversation about meaning, truth, and questions that emerge in the darkness. Until then, farewell, fellow travelers.